For the third ornament, I'm going to create a gyroscope. So we're going to have one outer tube. I'm using the tube shape here, and I'm dragging it over. And how wide do I want the outer thing to be? Well, not too big. I mean, if we're going to hang this on something. So let's say 3 inches, 75 millimeters. And I'm going to flatten this down to 10 using the white box. And I suppose I can just go ahead and create all 3 levels of rings all at once. So what I can do now is go copy and paste, shrink it. You can use the shift key if you want. Just want to get it kind of centered here. You want to make sure that you have a sufficient gap all the way around. And in fact, I need just a little bit more of a gap than that. And we want this to be centered as best we can. And you're just going to look from above and below and use your arrow keys to try to get it right. And that'll go up to 10. I can tell I'm off center here, and I'm still off center. So what I'm going to do actually is switch this to 0.5 millimeters. And now I think I'm perfectly centered because it was an odd number that I cut in half. So I think now I'm fine. Okay, next one, we're going to do just one more on the inside here. A little bigger. And I'm using the F key a lot for centering. That's pretty good. Looking from the top and the bottom are often the best ways to line something up. But then I'm going to tilt and view from the side to make this adjustment because it's very hard to do from straight on, from looking straight down. Okay, so I think I've got 3 pretty well balanced concentric circles going on here. And I can recenter them later. I'm going to go ahead and pull them apart to do the rest. We're going to create pins that will allow these things to rotate. So there are different shapes we can use for pins. I'm going to use the paraboloid today. So I just drag it over, and I'm going to, since this is 10 tall, I want this to be exactly 10 wide, and I believe it starts at 20, so I'm going to hold that and shrink it to 10. And also, I want to squish this just slightly so that when I rotate it by moving, by turning this, I want to make sure these angles are not too crazy to print. It's very hard to print something shooting straight over, but I think this will do it. So that was why I shrunk this down to 8 millimeters instead of 10. But I think that's an excellent sized pin. Just to review, 8 by 10 by 10. And I can overlap that with the side of this and just try to get it lined up. It's okay if it sinks in there a little bit. Oh, and hey, here's a problem. It's below the surface. I'm going to hit the D key, and now it's right on, and it should look pretty good. Oops. That is centered. I want to put another one on the other side, so I'm going to copy and paste, or actually in this case, I like duplicate. It's like pasting another one exactly on top. I'm going to use this mirror key to flip the direction of this one. And you can see the original is still there. I'm using the arrow keys to move this over, hitting F again. And this is fine. I just want to make sure there's nothing on the side here that isn't fully connected. That is fully connected. Very good. All right, I need to cut out holes for this in the larger shape so that they'll fit in. 3D printing is the only way that you can manufacture something that is with multiple pieces locked in when they're created, with no assembly later. So I've moved copies of these two pins, and by the way, I was holding the Shift key. I click on one, I hold the Shift key, and I click the other one, and now I have both selected. So if I'm going to cut out the holes here, all I have to do is change that into a hole, and I'm going to zoom in and just make sure I'm fully cutting it out. I don't want any stuff on the side left over, like this is actually not quite far enough. That will work. Cool. Let's look at the other one. I'm hitting F to zoom in again. Changing it to a hole. Very good. So yeah, I'm going to, let's just go ahead and group this outer shape right now. So when I group it, the hole's cut out. And you can see this will be an excellent groove for the pin, and the thing should be able to spin freely. What else are we doing here? So I need to do basically the same thing with the smaller one that fits in here. So let me push this off to the side and change the color just so we can kind of see the three rings separately. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to click on 1 and 2, holding the Shift key. I'm not selecting the orange thing between them. I'm going to copy and paste and bring that over here. Okay, and as I click off to the side, now I have nothing selected. So I'm going to select these one at a time and use the arrows to get them perfectly lined up. And that looks good to me. And then the last thing is that we're going to cut the holes out of this, except these will get cut out on a 90-degree angle from the other one. So I'm going to go 1 and 2, and I've got those both selected. I guess it doesn't matter which ones you pick. Let's pick these again. 1 and 2, copy and paste. And I might as well just rotate these right now. I can use that inside snap grid. Oops. And that's fine. I'm going to hit F. Let's deal with these one at a time. So let's take this one. Remember, this is a hole being cut out. And if it sticks out just slightly on the end, that's no problem. Is it perfect? Yes. I'm changing it into a hole. Very good. Now let's look at the other one. Moving it to the inside, and I'm going to move my camera around. Oops. Changing that into a hole. All right, so this shape, I think, is now ready to merge. It's 5 pieces because you include those holes, and I group them. It all becomes the same color. The holes chop out, and the pins are there. And everything looks good. finally, the inside shape here, we just group it, that's all. Okay, so now let's see if I can get this perfectly lined up again. One thing that helps is to put that centerpiece right on a cross point of the grid, and that way you can center all the pieces on that exact point also. Kind of a trick, just a reference point. So when I'm dragging this one in, I'm going to try to get it right on that spot again, and don't tell me I can't. Let's see. I guess I can reduce the grid, and now it's right on. And I can just double check, does it look like those things are not touching, the orange and the yellow? Just try to look as close you can. If they're overlapping, that means the two pieces will be fused together and they will not turn. So you want to be careful about it. But I think that's perfect. And let's make the middle piece different. Great. And in order to fit in here, we're going to have to rotate this piece 90 degrees. No problem. I'm going to put it roughly in place. Hit F. And instead of just trying to eyeball the outside, I'm going to try to get that centered right on the center point again. And I think I've done it. And it does look pretty good, like the green is not actually touching the orange. So we've just created a nice little gyroscope thing where we have two different directions of motion. I'm going to just take a tube shape right now, and let's put it on the side. I really don't want it to overlap with the pins and the holes. So let's just put it over here, and then we can be turning kind of at an angle. And I could just group it all together if I wanted. Let's say multicolor, yeah. So I can still see that. Great. And then so to export this as an STL, I would just go export everything in the design, STL, and that is the file that you can submit to me. In this case, what we can do is one color for the bottom layers and one color for the top layers, so that when you turn these inside pieces, you would end up seeing both at once. And so that is ornament number 3.